Hey, what's up guys? Disney Nuts here. How you guys doing? So today you can see we're at Epcot. We're going to be taking some shots that you guys have asked for, and one is actually this one, which is the monorail passing in front of Spaceship Earth on the corner, which is frozen in action with the lights underneath it and all the really cool fun stuff. So let's go ahead and talk about the settings and equipment they're going to be using to take that shot. Now we come all the way to the left. We actually got this view here, but this is actually the monorails coming in. So I don't know if we want this one. So we're actually going to be shooting it from the other side. That way we get the front of the monorail in the front of the Spaceship Earth. Okay, so we come all the way to the other side. We come all the way over here, which is this last flower bed. And you'll actually see this hand sanitizer right here. And this is the spot that we want to take, because you can see you got a perfect view of Spaceship Earth and the monorail coming. And hopefully we'll get the monorail with the tip in the front, like the photo that we took. Okay, now the original photo, I took it at 1/25 of a second. So I'm actually going to adjust my shutter. I'm going to probably put it to around 100 and see if I could freeze the monorail enough. Because again, we want to be able to bring the shutter speed down enough so we don't get too much noise into the photo. But again, we want to be able to freeze the monorail. So I'm going to put it to 1/100 and take a couple shots to see how it looks. So here's the photo at 1/100th of a second. And to be honest, it doesn't look bad at all, to be honest with you. So this is not a bad speed. Let's go ahead and check 1/80th of a second. Let me go ahead and zoom in here a little bit, and you can see that it's not bad at all. And then just for kicks, I actually took it also at 1/60th of a second, which also looks pretty good. So I think we're going to use 1/60th of a second and see what we get. Okay, so here are the settings we're going to be using for our shot today. As you saw, manual mode, 1/60th of a second. But we are going to bring our f-stop to the widest possible. So we're going to make sure that we bring that down to at least 1.4, which is the maximum that this lens provides. And then as for the ISO, we're going to leave it as auto. As you can see, it's automatically adjusting, but we're going to leave it as auto. And then we can leave it as one shot, and the focus points and everything else, we'll leave it into the center. Not much there that we need to change, and that's it. These are the settings that I'm going to be using. So here's a test shot I just did at 1/60th of a second. And I don't know, I think I'm actually going to bump it up to 1/80th. Because if you look closely, you can actually see a little bit of blur on it, and it's still going under pretty low ISO, which is ISO 1000, which is still pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and give this a shot again with 1/80th of a second.
Good evening, friends. Tonight, a special magic flows through Spaceship Earth, the magic of possibilities. We gather together as our
see, you can see the lights up. It's only for a split second that it's there.
That shines out
the light is there.
Celebration of 50 years of the most magical place on earth. The most magical place on earth.
Okay, so I'm going to take another shot here, probably like 125 of a second, just to see how it looks. Here are our final settings for what we're going to be using for the photo. 125 of a second, 1.4 on the f-stop, and we're going to leave the ISO as automatic. Now, something that I did adjust here is this here, which is the exposure compensation. And you can see I brought it a little bit up to the right, because I was noticing that when I was shooting photos of Spaceship Earth and the monorail is coming out a little dark. Now you can shoot it right there on the 0, but again, I want to be able to get a little bit more detail of the monorail without having it blown out, because if I bring it up from how dark it is, it's going to bring up a bunch of noise. And the way you do that is you basically hit the button here on the on your cue indicator, and you tap it, and you can then with the dial you could bring it up, you know, if you want to bring it up or more. And I'm just bringing it up to 1. And again, try different settings. You know, this is what I'm using here. I'm going to now take another shot, probably doing with 0 to see how it looks, and we can compare the two of them. Okay, so now we got our shots. Let's head over home and edit the photo. Let's go.
Okay, so here are the photos that we took, and before we edit the photo, I want to show you a couple of them here with different situations that I took, just to show you the difference of using different metering modes and stuff like that. Okay, so this one, for example, you'll see is the 1/80th of a second. This is the one I actually posted on my Instagram account probably like a couple weeks ago, and I wasn't too happy because you can see there's still some blur here on the monorail since it's 1/80th of a second. Another thing I wanted to show here is the metering mode. Now here I put spot metering because probably the question that you're asking, well, did you use spot metering and just focus on the monorail, and that way I don't have to worry about the exposure of it. But here, notice I put spot metering, and look how bright it did because it's trying to focus here on this, and you can see it went up to ISO 12,000 and looks extra grainy. So definitely that's why I'm not using that mode, and I am using the other mode, which is center weighted, and then adjusting the exposure compensation up so it looks a little brighter. Here it is how it looks using that mode with no monorail, and you can see how it adjusts correctly to the Spaceship Earth, but eventually here it doesn't look as bright as it should, which is why we're using the exposure compensation on the other photos. So here is a couple of photos that we took, though at 1/25 of a second, and you can see here's where we brought up the exposure compensation. This one I just wanted to show you because it has the tip of it. You can see the reflection of the glass, which looks pretty cool. And this is the one that you probably saw on the thumbnail, which is the one that we'll be working on. And here is the raw image as it came out directly from the camera. As you can see, it's a little bit overexposed here on the corners, which is perfect because what we're trying to expose for correctly is the monorail here. So this is exactly what we want. So now we just adjust it here pretty quickly. Bring down the exposure tad here, and we're going to bring this up later using the painting. We're going to paint over the monorail and bring it up, but since we know it captured it pretty well at the normal exposure, we don't bring any noise and other stuff, and it looks pretty good. The detail at 125 it freezes it. So let's go ahead and bring down the highlights. Again, let's bring down the exposure here a little bit. Shadows I'm not going to touch because when it's stuff like this, if I bring it up, look what happens. You get all that noise, so we're going to leave that there. Blacks I am going to adjust. I'm going to bring this down just a tad. There we go. And then when it comes to vibrance, and we're just going to see how this pops up the colors here a little bit. Now I'm not going to go too much into the editing part because I want you guys to do that part, but just to give you a general idea of what I'm doing. Now once I got this that looks pretty good, I'm going to hit the brush up here, and then we're going to bring up the monorail. So hitting the brush, I'm going to hit the exposure here just a tad, a little bit, and then I'm going to make sure that my auto mask is off, and we're going to put here probably 75%, and then we're going to paint over it. Look at that, and you can see how the monorail comes out, pops it up a little bit. Now once we're doing this, we got the option also to adjust the noise, so we're going to bring down the noise on that, and you can see how it smooths it out a little bit, and then we can bring up a little bit the sharpness. I know it's somewhat contradictory that you're bringing up the sharpness and then bringing up the noise, but for me it works and it looks pretty good. And look how good it looks there. And we want also the texture, we actually adjust this a little bit. It adds somewhat a little bit of sharpness in there sometimes, and there we go. Now another thing that I'm going to do here quickly is I'm actually going to bring down the saturation. That makes it pop a little bit as white, and probably a little -7 there. But then on the general image, I'm going to bring up these a little bit. That makes the Spaceship Earth pop, but it doesn't bring up the colors too much of the monorail. Now here we still have on the outside, we have a little bit more. So what we're going to do is actually we're going to bring down the shadows, and that's going to hide all that. There we go. There's our image. Now just for fun also, as I mentioned in the video, I took it at other different speeds. For example, this was at 125. Here's how it looks at 1/60th of a second, 160. Even though it is, frozen pretty much a little bit more than the other one, you'll notice that it does bring up a lot of noise, so that's why I didn't use that one. And then just for kicks, when the monorail was just about to finish the pass, I bring it up to 250, and here we bring extra noisy, as you can see. So that's why I think that for me 125 is probably the ideal speed for taking this shot. And here's how our shot looks.
Okay guys, so that's it here. Disney Nuts signing out from Epcot. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and hopefully these tips that I showed you here you can capture when you visit Epcot as well. Now this show will be going on for the next 18 months, so hopefully you can catch it on your visit soon. And if you did catch the photo, feel free to tag me with a link to it. I'd love to see it. Okay guys, so that's it here from Epcot. Until then, stay awesome. Good night.